Welcome to FaceHAMMER episode 88. It's me, Russ the Face, and I'm joined by Byron and Les of the FaceHAMMER team.
Hey.
Thanks for joining this, and obviously, today we're going to talk a little bit about a few topics. So, first one is there is a Lumineth Realm Lord list that has done pretty well, and we're going to talk through that and explain why it's effective and what's part of that. Then also Byron's been playing some games, and he's taken his Ironjawz list that we spoke about on the last show and had some games against OBR, and there's been some
Cabbage Patch Aggro.
Cabbage Patch Aggro. It needs to have bacon in the title. And then he's had some key learning points, so we're going to talk about that. And then finally, when we did our YouTube premiere of the FAQ YouTube only show, so if you haven't seen that, then go and check that out on YouTube. Then we had a guy in there, JPIC, who asked about Kharadron Overlords and the impact of the FAQ. And although in the last FAQ show we kind of didn't talk much about Kharadron because we hadn't done our research, so I've gone away and nerded out a little bit with the KO book, and I've written myself a list, which I will talk about in a section for match play. So that's going to be the format of this show. But before we get into the relevant sections, just want to say that obviously we touched on FaceHAMMER Worldwide, and we'll be giving more details out about that, but that'll be the weekend in September of the 18th, 19th and 20th, I believe.
The standard weekend that we run FaceHAMMER GT, isn't it? We're planning on doing it. So if you know, if you've already planned, I know a couple of people have already bought hotel rooms and stuff and got their refunds, so you should probably know when it is. But yeah, we'll confirm the dates just to make 100% sure if you're listening in or trying to join us from across the globe. It'd be quite cool.
Yeah, and we'll be giving instructions about how to get involved in the Discord channel and join in on that event and what's going on. There are going to be some guest interview slots, some live recording and a paint along, and we're going to run the FaceHAMMER painting competition and have some prizes. So we'll keep your ears peeled or your eyes peeled off on YouTube and on our social media. So that's and then we'll announce more information soon, and if you want to be part of that, let us know, and we'll release more details shortly.
So if you're still thinking of if you were planning on painting an army or a single figure, you've still got a little bit of time. If you base it roughly around the normal FaceHAMMER GT style pack, which would be is a character, unit, monster, and then obviously army, we're still going to have the same categories. And if you wanted to paint a model for that, that'd be really cool. Or if you have an army that you want to show us, like
prepare it for when the world comes back to normal, then it's a deadline to start with something pretty, I guess.
And we premiered our FAQ show on YouTube last week, a sort of last minute thing. We announced it on Twitter and we had some people join and a bit of a good conversation around the impact of that. So thanks to the people that joined in on that, and hopefully more of you will get involved on the YouTube stuff. And if you're watching this on YouTube, then please subscribe to our channel for more videos about these sort of match play list analysis, hobby tips and things like that we'll be doing. So hopefully these are useful and they're helping you with your kind of thought process on designing your army list or thinking up the next match play winning army you're going to take to an event in the future. So,
or just how to make something viable. I mean, we're going to deep dive into a few books that definitely aren't considered like top tier. I think actually each of them, like KO, not top tier, Destruction, the Ironjawz, probably the most powerful out of them, and then KO. None of them is like one of the armies, like the headline beatstick armies, but we're going to be talking about how we'd approach making them flexible, making them viable.
I think as well for us, we would really like to hear from you guys in the comments below. If you have a list you want us to talk about, or a battle tome, or a topic, please let us know in the comments below, or via Twitter, or any of the sort of ways to get hold of us.
Yeah, let us know your thoughts.
And we will quite happily discuss these things for you, and you can get your sort of bit of advice or some advice on how to enhance your hobby. So we want to hear from you guys. So if you want to put some comments below, then that would be great. So do you guys want to talk about anything you've been up to recently, or should we just crack it into the main topics?
Mine's going to kind of roll into my topic, really. I've not been doing any particular assembly or painting or stuff like that. I've been writing a lot of lists, and that's going to be part of what I've been doing. I've got in some games, and I think I've played like 6 games in a month now, that's nearly as many. That's nearly as many as I've ever played in a non-tournament month.
That's more than I've played this year, Byron.
It's probably more than I played this year as well.
It's really good. Why didn't anyone tell me about practicing before? I'm learning so much stuff. It's way more casual than trying to learn in your first game in an event and then apply it in the next part.
Yeah, because you're kind of getting an event between events, right? So
yeah.
No, I haven't. I really miss him playing at the moment. I've been doing quite a bit of hobby, so you could see in the background behind me, if you're on YouTube, that there's an Indomitus set there. So I've built all my Necrons over the weekend and been baking bases using Super Sculpey, as I talked about before. So yeah, I've been enjoying that process, and I've tried out some of the AK Interactive Streaking Grime based on some of the videos I've watched from different YouTube sort of grim dark. I'm going to completely mispronounce it. It's Zatus something minis, but I'll put a link because it's quite but he does a lot of videos on the grim dark style, so I've been watching those with great fascination to try and apply that to my Necrons to make them look to try and enhance the horror theme. So I just thought I'd crack on with those. I know it's not Age of Sigmar, but it's still hobby, right? So
I want to do a really scary, freaky night haunt at some point soon. I painted up a classic one recently for YouTube. I guess this could technically be my hobby. Been painting up ghosties and some Imperial Fists and some Ultramarines from Indomitus, but I really like the idea of doing a proper like it should be on the cover of a horror film, tweed Hessian mask covered in blood, freaky thing. So that's going to be the next time I pick up a ghost, I'm going to try and make something awful. Basically.
I just got this thing about this guy in tweed.
Something awful.
It's like some sort of upper class country horror film.
Kind of like if you've ever
patches
seen
on the elbows,
he's got one of those it's like the blazer Byron sometimes wears when he's at tournaments. But for me, I'm really I suppose I've been doing quite a lot of Lumineth painting, but not for me at the moment. I've been working on some stuff for Brian Carmichael, which is coming along quite nicely. That's been quite good. Other than that, I've just been building my own Lumineth stuff and getting that ready. I did a quick kit bash on a Indomitus captain, which I'm quite pleased with, hoping to get some paint on that in the next week or so, and then maybe get it up online so people can have a look at it. It's not an original idea by any stretch of the imagination. I saw it somewhere else, but it's just replacing the marine head with a hooded head and then putting a Dark Angel sword in his hand as opposed to the Gladius style ultramarine sword. But it looks really cool. I'm really pleased with it, and hopefully it paints up quite nicely. But that's really it. Nothing massively Age of Sigmar wise at the moment. It's just painting spear owls for Brian Carmichael.
Yeah,
I've made the mistake of delving into the KO book, and I'm feeling the itch at the back of my neck to get my KO out. And I had a moment. Well, when I was doing the Necron test model using the oils, and I was thinking, how good would a KO army look if you use oil and weathering? And when you see the AK Interactive range where they've got stuff like the whole rust and the streaking and all that, I was thinking I could make the ironclad and frigates and stuff look immense. And I've also perfected the basing method for using the green stuff rollers, so that's going to make that an awful lot easy to add to the army. And I'm almost tempted to start from scratch, because one of the things that put me off my KO was when I undercoated them, I got a little bit of dusty bobbliness on some of the models, and it's kind of made them not smooth, and I'm almost I almost want to start the army again. So depending on if there's a
like
nice
Grimlock
little...
or weather, that wouldn't matter though.
Maybe not, but I think I might look at doing the list that I've written as an army and get some games with it to see how it plays, because I have most of it. Yeah, and it's an army that I love the imagery, and I never really... They almost paint like Necrons, and that sounds stupid, but they've got the glow, they've got the metal, they've got... And I can use some of the 40k style, Grimdark style, to make them look really
very unique,
interesting.
Yeah.
And I can also experiment with oils a bit more, so, you know, like panel washing and things. So I'm quite tempted to break them out and do that as my hobby project, but I think I need to play a couple games with the army to see that I enjoy playing with it first before I delve into it. So we can maybe might be a bit challenging.
Maybe get a game in. It's like if the weather's good, and I pop over those crons for you at some point. You know,
I can set a table up in the garden. We can get some social distance gaming in. That would help me out a little bit, to be honest. As long as you're not going to play with the Lumineth list that you're just about to talk about, because what's another point?
That'll be
stay at home. Yeah, you can stay at home if you're going to proxy that.
I'll have to proxy. I'll just bring a load of bases with me. It'll be fine.
Yeah, get out. I'm just going to leave the gate locked.
You can like 15-meter social distancing Warhammer. Depending on the list, though, Russ, you might wipe his off the table, depending what's...
It's a one drop, isn't it?
Yeah, my list
a one drop.
You can't get KO to one drop really. You can, but it's not. I don't think it's a very good list. So anyway, I think we will, before we start talking about that theory game that Lumineth versus KO. I think we can start our main show sections now. So we'll start the next section on the Lumineth Realm Lord list. So back in a sec.
Cool. Welcome back. So in this video, we're going to talk about a tournament-winning Lumineth list, which I think is the actual first tournament-winning Lumineth list that we've seen so far. Mainly because no one's been playing at tournaments, but it's still quite a good army list. So that's going to be quite cool. I don't know if you guys saw it online, sort of like what Peter was tweeting and stuff like that.
I didn't follow it.
I avoid social media quite a bit. I don't look at it very much. So I got wind of it through WhatsApp, through other people sharing it. So I did get wind of it. So it is a list that it was almost like Tom Maudsley-esque tendencies to it.
Yeah. So it's funny actually because you say Tom Maudsley. Joe Purcell sent me the list and said what beats this, and I was just like,
is that why
I can
Tom's
think of a few things.
40 Blight Kings?
Yeah, potentially beat it. But yeah, like essentially, just to get into it, it's a one-drop Lumineth Realm Lords list, so everything fits in the Aurelian Legion battalion. And I believe that the only reason the battalion's there is to get it to a one-drop, because you're not really going to want the reroll ones on the armor save. I mean, you might do for the Wardens. But essentially, it's a Cathlar, and then it's 4 units of 10 Wardens, and then 4 units of 20 Sentinels. It's under Zatrek, which is the Great Nation, which allows you to add 1 to casting rolls for first attempts for each wizard. So the Cathlar gets a +1 to cast, and then every unit gets +1 to cast for the first attempt. And then he's got the Spell Portal, well, I can't speak, a Spell Portal, and the Twin Stones, which is, again, the Twin Stones, as you cast spells, ticks over and gets you pluses to cast. So it's, again, quite handy. I think looking at the list, you've got sort of like Lambent Light on the Cathlar. So for me, it's a case of like one of the Wardens casts the portal, and then he uses Lambent Light through the portal to actually be able to target a hero or unit, which allows you then to reroll. And then all of the Sentinels buff themselves to get the mortal wounds on 5s. And then they've got, 80 shots with no line of sight, killing all the characters with mortal wounds on 5s.
Breakdown of what's in there.
Sorry, Byron?
full breakdown of the list, like top to bottom, roughly?
It's Kevlar, 10 Wardens, 10 Wardens, 10 Wardens, 10 Wardens, and then 20 Sentinels, 20 Sentinels, 20 Sentinels, 20 Sentinels, and it all fits in the Aurelian Legion as a 1-drop. So it essentially kills all of your support characters on the first turn if it 8-drops you. So you've got no support characters.
What's the effective range on the bows? Because they're 30 if you're shooting at long range, isn't it? And they got a 6-inch move. Is it 36?
Yeah, I think it's. I've got the book next to me, which is going to not look good for the video. But...
No, it's fine. So most of these things, so most missions, you're deploying 12 on, aren't you? And then that allows you to move 6 and then shoot 30. So 12 add 36 is 48, which is the length of a table. So pretty much every mission you can hit whatever you want turn 1 and decide who goes first because you're a 1-drop.
Screen it.
And it's lofted aim. Obviously, if you're doing 30 inches, it's 4s and 4s. But you're not looking to actually do the wounds with the hits. You're looking to do the 5s for the mortal wounds.
Yeah, and you can re-roll any of the dice, can't you? Is that right?
Yeah, with Lambent Light.
Yeah.
With Lambent Light, you get to fish for the mortal wounds. So I think that's essentially how it plays, is that they all get +1 to cast, so they're doing their mortal wounds, adding the +1 to their mortal wounds for each of the Sentinel units. And then you Lambent Light from the Kevlar. So essentially, you sit there, you kill all the support characters turn 1. Or you kill a key piece in the army turn 1. The Kevlar's got a very good spell as well, which is if you roll above your, it's sort of like a mini Be'lakor. If you roll above your bravery, then it can't move or shoot, stuff like that. So you've got that as well. So you could maybe get lucky pinning a unit down, casting the spell there if you don't go for the Lambent Light in the first turn.
About in damage terms down, kill the utility pieces, and then the next turn, especially if you get priority, you're in a pretty strong position, right?
Yeah, I mean, like Fire Slayers, for instance, use it as an example. Like if you play against a Fire Slayers army, all of the support heroes are dead, which means then you don't get the Herndar Pile-In, you don't get the 4-up mortal wound save, you don't get any of the prayers that make you fast as a Fire Slayer unit, and then your 3 units of 20 movement 4 dwarves, and you just basically go, this turn, those are dead, this turn, those are dead, and then you try and outscore on the abilities, on the objectives.
So this list was, did you mention it was Peter?
Peter Kratsky.
And on Twitter, it's what at Peter.
Peter Kratsky. Oh, okay. We'll put the link in the actual video. Yeah, he's one of the Polish UTC guys. He's come over and he's played quite a lot of Daughters of Cain and some IDNF stuff. I know Laurie Huggett Wild's played him a couple of times. I know James Tinsdale's played him a couple of times at some of the GW events.
So I mean,
he's a good player as well.
Yeah, so. I mean, it sounds like he went to one dare, didn't he? And he played against. He put what he played in. Have you got that in front of you?
Yeah, he played against Cities of Sigmar, 1-drop Stormcast Eternal shoot list, and he played against Change Host as well.
Not an easy run.
No, it's I guess with these sorts of things though, it's like if you're playing against something like a Change Host. A lot of things in Age of Sigmar are so reliant on those support characters to make your units really good. So if you've got the ability to kill all of the support characters like early on in the game, you're then reliant on the overall power of your war scroll to make it actually make that army then compete. I think there's a couple.
It's like one-upmanship, isn't it? You're taking the ultimate glass cannon. If it's versus the second best glass cannon, then it's just like you're going to wipe them before they get to be involved in the game, aren't you?
Yeah, I think if you don't win the roll-off and someone's got an Alpha 1's drop list as well, you're going to be in trouble. I think as well, if you've got some really, really good independent war scrolls, so maybe, I don't know how it would fare against Daughters of Cain, like, Marath is not going to die. All the hags will die, maybe a unit of Witch Elves, but a unit of 10 Witch Elves kills that entire army, I think, possibly if it gets into combat.
What's the... If all of the thing, if you get all your bunnies in a row, what is the realistic output in terms of mortal wounds, at least, of that shooting? How many guys are shooting?
It's 80 guys shooting doing mortal wounds on 5s.
With rerolls.
And you're with
rerolls. Well, dependent, you can only reroll against one thing if the Lambent Light spell goes off. So you pick a unit and then it rerolls against that.
Because their
so
spell gives them +1, doesn't it, to the mortal wounds?
Yeah.
And then the Lambent Light
+1 to the sun metal.
Yeah.
So it's 4 That's 40 mortal wounds at 36-inch potential range, basically.
Yeah. Okay. No line of sight. You don't need line of sight, so you can just pick. You kill all the heroes, essentially, unless you've got Marathi, because, Marathi just takes 3 wounds and then transforms. And
I think there's enough bodies, though, that you probably can absorb a Marathi if you take out enough of the other stuff.
Yeah, I think she's only in one place, isn't she?
I think especially if you're going first, though, she's only small. If you can get to her and she's small, and you're only going to get, she's going to take 3 wounds, and she's 6 wounds. Then you've got 2 turns of her alive. I think, it's okay. I think in a bigger round tournament, like a 5-6 round, you might struggle because some of the missions, I think, like anything around heroes, you're going to struggle. I think any army that's very good against shooting, like Nurgle, with the minuses to hit,
and mortal saves,
anything that can alpha strike, even the Legion of Night list that I wrote, you've got 90 bodies of skeletons that are going to walk across the table. You can do 30, 40 mortals to that unit. I don't give a shit. They're going to come back.
You can leave your heroes off the table as well, Russ. So it's like you can shoot me anywhere on the board, not on the board.
And the Necromancer is quite tough to shoot because you're bouncing the wounds on a 4 anyway, and then you've got a death save, and then if you're shooting him, you're not shooting the 40 skellies, and they don't.
I can Deepkin as well,
and I can keep Manfred and the 2 units of Vargeist off the table to come on at any point I want. Flesh Eaters, I think, would be tough, just purely from the sheer amount of like shenanigans they can do.
Yeah, the speed as well.
I think Ironjawz are probably one of the hardest armies to fight with that, because you can't shoot. You've got to shoot the closest thing. So you each unit can only kill one thing. You can't split your fire, really.
Yeah. Is it how the unit's broken up again? Is it 4 20s?
Yeah.
4 20s of shooters and then 4 10s of spear elves. So the spear elves are probably going to be bunkered up in Shining Company. So they're going to be minuses to hit, doing rends on attacks. But I still don't think wardens are actually that good in game terms. I may be wrong. I've always found them to be very, very slow and not particularly. There's nothing in the shooting does the heavy lifting in that army. The rest of it's there to score objectives, I feel.
Yeah, it's a really, really scenario dependent list. Like obviously, undoubtedly, it's incredibly strong, and let's say it's the Brian Carmichael approach of kill your opponent till they're dead, then win the game. It doesn't like if they're dead by turn 2, it doesn't matter what scenario you play.
No.
But if you break that down, especially if someone has mortal wound protection, Russ said Nurgle, like if someone's getting rid of a third of your, let's say it's 40 wounds, they're getting rid of a third of them. You've got 28 wounds. Like what's that gonna do to Terry's list?
Yeah.
Like you're gonna kill 2 great unclean ones maybe, but you might kill 1.6 great unclean ones, which is awful. Because like one of them's coming back to life, and then you've got plague bearers, and if you get touched by anything fast that is resilient, that goos you up in combat, it's going to absolutely maul you. It's undoubtedly very strong, but also in terms of deployment, having played one of the most shooting lists in the game for the ETC, like if my people watching, if my screen's a table, if you've got an army that splits into sections nicely, deploying like this ruins list like that. I know 36 inches is a long way, but if you deploy a blob here and a blob here, being in your back left and back right corner of your deployment zone, if you are in that one, or if you're split diagonally, it's even easier to be further away. Someone can come at you and you can then threaten a double, and most armies will be able to reach something with something on the double, or they might get up on objectives. Like if it was Daughters, rocket Marathi into your opponent. She's been put in a safe position or whatever. The other trick with armies like that is you can end up, I've played against you with Fire Slayers in exactly this scenario, Les. You end up, you can split your units, and if you get under average a few times, let's say I shoot my 20 guys, I need to take out this Fire Slayer's hero and this Fire Slayer's hero. I split my shots 50-50, one dies, the other one gets lucky, bounces wounds onto, what's the unit you can bounce wounds onto?
It was the Auric Hearthguard, the shooters, so...
Yeah. So you bounce your wounds on some Auric Hearthguard, and you get a bit lucky with that, and with a mortal save anyway, or something like that.
Yeah.
And then you put your next unit in, you split it, and you don't kill both heroes there because you get a bit unlucky. Then you suddenly start getting really worried because you've got 40 shots left, and you end up just about killing these things, but at that point they've got the entirety of their unit there. So you would be really reliant on that unit not getting to you somehow. You've got a spell, but you really need things to go off in the right order. And if your opponent gives you a slightly trickier decision by deploying something off board or to the side, that's a real issue for lists like that. Having played with the Ruck myself, people touch you, you die.
Yeah, it's all about target priority as well, isn't it? It's like if you over allocate shooting to certain things and you waste the shots. If you under allocate, you then obviously have to waste shots somewhere else. I do think I think it's very strong. I think in certain situations you're just going to auto win games where, if you play against double, in a gash list and 30 of the OBR, the infantrymen, I can't think what they're called. You kill the gash on the first turn. Mortec guard, yeah, 30, you kill the gash on the first turn, and then the 30 Mortec guard, come across the table. They're not particularly fast.
I think, it's one of those things, isn't it? I don't think it's auto-win. I think there's a lot of stuff in there that seems extremely strong, but, even the gash, if you don't get the rerolls on him, you ain't killing the gash with 2 units. There's no way. He's not.
No, well, you'd have to. You put all of them in there, wouldn't you? I think,
yeah, but you might be able to deploy in a way that you can't get them all in range.
Yeah.
Especially if you're playing something like Total Conquest, we've got diagonal deployment boxes.
Yeah.
Or you're playing a sort of a Battle for the Past style for old school words. I don't know if it's still like that, but the sort of the
lengthways, table
lengthways, yeah. So you're playing on the short edges. I think it's still good. I think the problem with this list like this is that when you get into a situation that upsets you, or your pre-game, this technically in theory could beat most things in a certain circumstances, and it might be 80% of the time you're in those circumstances, but when you hit that 20%, you're just going to lose.
You're not going to learn how to combat those situations, because what are you going to learn with a list like that?
Well, you don't have any tools in your toolbox to get around it, and you're going to have to rely on them getting lucky, or your warden's probably slightly overperforming in terms of resilience, or them being you're overperforming with your shooting, or the priority roll going your way, which is in a way you get that with Age of Sigmar anyway. Yeah, so it's quite a clever army. I'm not sure it's going to be as dominant as it probably appears from that one result, especially on a one day. It is even more polar if you get the perfect storm. In a way, it's a bit like the Halo Heart list. On paper looks amazing. Some matches it just falls over.
Speaking from a vast amount of experience with this type of list, having played it for a year, the things that really hurt you are and this is why I crafted my list to push the odds again and again and again and make it more and more extreme, is anything that is more than a certain amount under average really screws you over, massively. So you 20 shots into something that's got 10 wounds, and with your rerolls you do 7. Your next guy you put in, and you might massively over allocate there, and then you've lost those shots, and you're halfway through your damage potential of your army, and you've killed you've done 3 wounds to Marathi, and then you've killed a hag got lucky with its rerolls or whatever. You've killed Marathi and a hag, and you've got a certain amount of shots left. And some armies out there, Witch Elves, they don't need that much help. They're not really immune to battle shock. They'll still go in and they'll mullet anything. Your entire list, I've lost an entire Cunning Ruck to Marathi, a Cauldron, and 7 Witch Elves before. And if you push your army to this level of extremes, it's really hard to cope with. Also, if someone sends 5 cavalry at you, I know it sounds small, someone puts 5 Cavalos Death Riders into you, and they can reach you pretty easily. They put them into you and get a double. You could lose half your army, half your effective damage potential of your army in 2 turns. Done.
Yeah,
I think it's like one of it's a really good team event list, because you could control the scenario of the matchup, and I think it's interesting because it's an efficient, what I call an efficient army, where every element of that list is working towards the same combination of factors. So there isn't really any leeway in it, because as soon as you put anything else in the list, it loses the 1 drop, which is critical. So there isn't really any evolution of this army. So I think there'll be a time where, for example, if you something comes on that is a perfect counter, a perfect foil to this that's popular, this list just doesn't exist anymore. It's not from a tournament point of view, if you want to go in and go 5 for 5, or you just go and hope you don't play that thing.
If you played Skaven, even look at it as a small amount of elite damage, and it might be doing it in a unique way and at range, but the things that foil those lists generally are lots of bodies, elite saves, so mortal wound saves here. Like Nagash would prefer to be shot by things that give him a mortal wound save rather than Ren 3 shooting, because he gets the mortal save or he gets an armor save. You can modify an armor save, you can't modify his mortal save. So those things can really, really get you unstuck. Does it have any movement shenanigans or anything like that, or speed or?
No. It's all very static almost.
Yeah. So
one of the things. Oh, sorry, Karen, Byron.
I was just going to say that's really important. Russ said it initially. Like it's got one plan and it does it to a really good degree, and that plan's a very amount of pretty reliable damage. But if you don't have anything else, like when I played the Brook, the double move spell was without that the army wouldn't have worked, because you have to have something to back up the shooting. Yeah.
It's I do think for me what it does do is, I think this list is very good, and like Russ said, it's in a team event. It could be a go-to because you can skew the matchups with it. But I think what it does highlight is that maybe a more balanced Lumineth list has 2 units of 20 of those sentinels in, and like you do it light, and then you have a few other bits and pieces in the army list. I think
5 cabinet list, different, like 3 drops, but completely different.
I think maybe you drop some of the bits out of it and don't go down that route. That's just me personally. And obviously we're discussing like Peter's list here, and I think that maybe if we've totally misinterpreted it, and like I'm sure Peter will be able to let us know what we've said.
Don't get me wrong, I've given all these ways you could beat it, but that would mull most things I put on the table.
Yeah, don't go out and buy it because you can't, and also I don't want to face it. So I think we should just say congratulations for the achievement and thanks for sharing your list, and let us know if you listen to this and if you've got any comments, and if we've missed a key point, let us know and we'll address it on a future show. But thanks for sharing that with the community, and I look forward to never facing that an event. So Legion of Night's happening, boys, I tell you. So okay, so I think that'll wrap this section up, and we'll come back with the next bit. Welcome back, and in this video we're going to talk about Byron's list evolution.
Of his Ironjawz stuff that he talked about in the last episode.
Yeah, so I said really confidently that I worked out a good list, and I've written 17 since. I think that really speaks to the strength of the book, though. So I'm looking for something that is super fun. I like not feeling massively like I want to take some mega complex power list, which I guess is how you would describe the last few things that I've taken. Last few things being 6 months ago when the world was a bit normal. So like 13 drops of weird Cities of Sigmar / Mixed Order, Seraphon, Pterodon, whatever.
That was never normal for me. But okay, you do you.
Yeah.
I always do. So I describe them as headache lists, actually. And I think there's a real genuine joy to playing something super complex. But the problem for me with playing something like that, and I won't segue too much into my hatred of data management, but when there were 6 scenarios, I could play a list like that with much more ease and enjoyment, and there was less bookkeeping, less other stuff to think about, realms, whatever, like scenery, everything was a more condensed version. So I could play a list that had literally 13 drops and like 11 different war scrolls, 4 of which were new to me and I hadn't used before and I hadn't practiced with, and I learnt turn 1 and I just thought about on the drive to an event. I could do that, but now there is a lot more going on in the game. So I've been doing some deep thinking about this recently, and as a result, I would like to play something that I still view as technical. I have less decisions, but each of those decisions matters a lot, and as a result, I've been really enjoying playing the Ironjawz. And I think the book is, if you look at the recent FAQ and points changes, stuff's barely changed in that book, apart from the Rogue Idol, which was pointless.
It's not in the book.
Everything's...
yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I hit you. It's going to FAQ your comment. So
that's fine. I'll errata it with some designers' keynotes. But it's a really balanced book, and if you look how the points changed, the answer is that they barely changed at all. Like something's went up by 10 points, something went down by 10 points. Hard boys were admittedly very good, so they went up a little bit, but it
was almost an internal balance change rather than anything to stop. For a power level, it was more like to address the sort of the imbalance between brutes and hard boys, in that when you write a list you prioritize hard boys because efficiently and points wise they were better than brutes, but not by a lot, but by enough to make a difference. And that was kind of skewed by the formation that allowed you to bring units back, and then if you had A for quartz, then it allowed you to use that to cascade the bringing units back from the hard fist. So I think the change sort of detracts from that, but essentially I said it on when we talked about the General's Handbook 2020 Godrak list show that we put up previously, is that the Ironjawz book is so, well, the War Clans book I should say, is so good because essentially you can tweak that list in a variety of ways, and all the formations are almost interchangeable, the battle lines interchangeable, and there's so many different variations of doing the same thing, which is to go and smash people in combat, but there are different ways to do it. So it's for me, it's one of the best nuanced, internally balanced books that's out there at the moment. So
I think I view it and Khorne similarly, but I think Khorne probably does it to a slightly higher level. Not sure where you guys would agree with that. I think Khorne has got game against pretty much anything out there. It's a phenomenal book. And
I don't think the internal balance is as good in Khorne, but
I agree with that.
I do think that it has a lot of viable options, and I think a lot of it falls around the formations, the battalions that are in the book, and the way they naturally fit into armies that units you would take anyway. You're not trying to like shoehorn a formation in it naturally just falls into your normal selection.
Yeah.
So it's just finding the points for it rather than, I've got to take X, Y, and Z, which I didn't really want to take, but I need to take them to get this formation to give me this, and it doesn't really fit with what I'm trying to do. But, and some of the Khorne armies are literally the formation makes the army. It is what makes the army effective. So
absolutely. You also get that nice feeling where when you go for, you're picking your war clan or whatever it's called, you don't feel like you've been taxed in any way, so like not too much in it. So when you take another one, you're like, I'm taking this, but my god, that item is a joke, and great, my war boss can make a wizardry roll a spell, or like the things make sense. So for example, I've been playing in Iron Suns, and that's got some really good stuff. None of it is like crazy, but it all makes sense. So subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by enemy units that target Iron Sun's unit in the first battle round. Just solid. Like great. Exactly what you need. My plan is to get into your face early. I don't have a massive amount of armor, which is like lots of things have a 4+ save, but no one's got better, and no one has after saves. That does not exist in the book. So that works really, really well. People are going to struggle to hit you more, whether it's with shooting or with combat. It's not restricted to melee, which is really good. And then command trait, you get an additional command point. I looked at that one initially and was like, oh well, it's all right. I need command points so much. I use command points more than OBR use command points with this list. Like if I
they don't use them. They use them as discipline. But yeah, carry on. FAQing you
so you
all
definitely
day.
need it more. Yeah.
No.
Actually,
RDPs.
Thank you. You'll find their relentless discipline points. Thank you.
Well, I've been RDP in some OBR recently, and it's been really good fun. So the artifact worsen the rend characteristic of the bearer by 1. Like just solid, great stuff. And then the command ability, which I'm not getting to use because I need to work out how to put more command points in in my list is use your command ability at the end of the enemy charge phase. Pick one Iron Sun's unit that's within 12 an enemy and wholly within 18 of an Iron Sun's hero. Pretty unrestricted there. Like, that's solid. More than 3 from enemy models that unit can attempt to charge. That is baller. I mean, you know this from playing Khorne, Russ. That's got game, and that
especially when you're using more crushers.
Oh yeah, that's really, really unique, and quite a lot of stuff in the book. If it's a piggy, so a gore grunter or a cabbage. Sorry, cabbage is the more crusher. If it's a cabbage, they've got game on the charge. They can do that in your opponent's phase, and it's really one of the ways you lose with melee armies is by not getting equity out of your units in your opponent's turn. So top tip for anyone playing against anything melee that is going to put you back against the wall, you run away from their big monster that's in combat with you in your turn. They're not doing any damage. They've got one model, they spent like a quarter of the value of their army's points on that one model, and it is now stood there doing nothing.
Please
like
don't listen to what Byron's saying. Like,
stay there and fight it.
Yeah. Stay and fight my my big monsters.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's one of the strengths of things that I love, stuff that does unique things. So things that can flee from combat and then charge. That's another unique one, and that's one of the real strengths of like left field units. You don't see much like in Nighthaunt or something. Oh, you charge me with your zombie
giant gas revenants.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, I want to be over there denying that objective, and I want to kill your thing that's on that objective, and I don't want to give this thing any equity in combat. So I'm now not here, and I am there, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, it's awesome. So having the ability to charge is a real threat, and I haven't even got to grips with the potential of using this yet because I keep spaffing my command points like nobody's business. So
I think that's the finesse in playing that list, is knowing when to use mighty destroyers or when to sit on the point, or when you need the immediate battle shock, or when you they are so precious now, especially with the Aether Quartz going away, that there isn't really a way to go, oh, well, command points are important, that's an easy fix, because it's not there anymore. I think that the management of resource is in itself a very rewarding element to any army that you play with. So
it's really addictive. Like, even in writing a list, you're managing the resources. So, I'd like more command points, so I can get one of those if I can get D3 command points at the start of the battle if my general is a wizard. Okay, well, then your general isn't a mega boss, so you can't war. Like, all of these things are little nuances and balances and stuff like that. So I'll run through the list that I started with. So I played all these games against OBR, just as like recently anyway. I've played a little bit against Nurgle. But the list that I went with is Gordrak. Now I've got to give a shout out to Tom Worsley, which I'm sure he'll love here. I didn't like the idea of giving him spell protection, but I think you probably just have to. So your cabbages can have a mount trait, whether they are a unique character, Gordrak, or they're just another one. That's great. That's brilliant. I love that. Weirden gives you a 4+ shrug. So if you're targeted with any spells on a 4+, you just ignore the effects. It's close to a mortal wound save in some situations.
So powerful. Like,
you need it.
Yeah.
Really, really need it.
Really underrated, because everyone just goes, I want more damage. But actually, being able to move and do the thing you want to do is more important than get an extra wound, you know.
It's super fast Nalcidian icon, isn't it? Essentially, like, you know, a Nalcidian icon on a monster. So
can't hurt someone if you're dead, and like, can't hurt someone as much if you're debuffed. Can't hurt someone if you're slowed. It's super, super solid, and it's got that horrible thing. If someone does want to kill him with spells, they have a decision whether they bother targeting him, and then if they do, they still might get screwed. So I played against
exactly.
And
I could say Machine Gun Nagash isn't going to be able to. You could shrug half of those, could you?
You can. You really, really can. So that has. I'm probably never going to try something else different unless I'm talking about an army that's trying to go first. So there is an argument that you just try and kill someone until they're dead, but I think it's pretty sensible to take that as an option. I couldn't leave everything behind though. So my second cabbage, he's got Heavian, which means that his impact hits, of which he gets 8 on the charge. You roll 8 dice.
Heavy.
And you roll 8 dice on the charge, and each roll of a 4+ rather than a 5+ is a mortal wound. And that's quite a big deal. That's really good. You've got other options. You can give him +2-inch move. You can give him
stacks quite nicely with the mighty destroyers, right? If you go into a screen that's like depleted, you got the opportunity then to like impact hit them off, and then that allows you to go again, right, to get to the juicy center of the army.
So this is another one of the addictive things of the army. There are situations that are going to be rare, and if you get really, really good at probability management and resource management, you can make these situations more likely to happen, but you can't rely on them, where you could get a ridiculous cascade. So if anyone isn't aware of how that works, if you wipe something out with your impact hits, or as a result of your impact hits, then you can immediately declare another charge and you get to go again and impact hit again. Now, I've got various things in my army that can do impact hits, and where the army really falls down here is you don't have ranged damage to like nibble away some wounds before that. So if someone's got a screen of 10 guys, you're not going to kill them with a charge from one cabbage, or even the gore grunters. They do it on a 4+. For each model that finishes within 1 inch of an opponent's unit, after charging, you immediately do this in the charge phase. On a 4+, they take a mortal wound. So even 3 pigs and 1 of the dragons, statistically, they're like, even my pumped up dragon, they're not going to wipe out that unit. If you had a tiny bit of shooting to, like, whether it was in the magic phase or in the shooting phase, to just take 3 models out of that unit, it would make a huge difference. But you can, of course, charge something with multiple things.
We do have the breath weapons, don't you, that you can use before you go in, but they're not very...
Yeah, you do. Yeah. They're really, really important. So it's very easy when looking at these lists to think, well, if I just dropped 1 of the dragons, I would have 440 or 560 points left. And where you can spend them, there are significant gains, but you are losing a fairly reliable breath weapon. It's only it's a big difference between Gordrak and the other one. Actually, Gordrak gets 6 shots, and they are 2s and 3s, rend 1, damage 1, and then the other cabbage gets D6 shots with the same profile. There's a big difference in that. Like, if you got 5 guys in front of you and you can, like, I don't know, breath weapon them and then charge them, you're probably going to be in with a really good chance of wiping.
Plus it unlocks the charge one in, do the impact, charge the next one in, wipe it out, that one then charges something else. Then, you can, and if you get into a point where you're almost reducing the unit down, maybe you can pile in round the side that you couldn't before, and now you can get closer to something else.
Yeah, so, I mean, something that kind of fits with this is that I think a lot of people, when looking at Gore Grunters, I mean, initially they don't look that great anyway. Like, you pay a lot of points, you get a not bad amount of wounds, they've got a 4+ save, and they've got quite a lot of medium quality attacks. You can get 1 more attack each if you give them a weapon in each hand, but they're with 1 each reach. But their 2-inch reach weapon gets a bonus on the charge. So,
and it's 2 inches.
Yeah, and that's a big deal. So if you're wiping out someone, let's say your charges go a little bit wrong, and you put Gordrak, and then he doesn't wipe out the unit, then you put in a unit of 6 Gore Grunters, and they do wipe out that unit, and get to go again. It might be that you are, with your pile-in after your charge and your 2-inch reach, you can reach stuff that you couldn't have reached otherwise. Not only that, but they're just more reliable on the charge. So I'll come to it soon, but everything that I've been doing has been about making the Gore Grunters as reliable as possible on the charge. That's kind of a big central part of...
So just to get a bit more concise onto what we're talking about, so your list that you took, did we talk about the list you ended up with? It was Gordrak, a Maw Crusher, and then you had...
Fungoid Cave Demon, who gets me command point on a 4+, really important, but he's been being very naughty boy. A War Shanter, 6 pigs, 3 pigs, and 5 brutes.
Oh, okay.
So one of the restrictions of this list is that the brutes get left behind, and I wanted to take Ardboys, but Ardboys need to be a unit of 10 to be battle line, and you end up in this horrible juggling situation where if I want an effective, that's with Gorefist, by the way, if I want an effective 5-drop list, that is of this type and has a War Shanter and has a wizard, it's very difficult to get utility out of your 3rd battle line unit. Also, you're obviously low on bodies. You've got to do a lot with very little resources.
So did you run the Gorefist? Because I thought you had to use Gore Grunters for that.
Sorry, I run the Iron Fist.
Right, okay. But didn't you end up with the Gorefist? Is that what you're...
I've played like 3 or 4 different iterations of this, trying to work out what goes on. So the Iron Fist has got late game utility. It's slightly more expensive. It's more varied because it can contain all 3 of your battle line units, so Gore Grunters, or Brutes, or Ardboys. Ardboys are any battle line if they're 10 or more, not if they're 5s. And you can use for free the Mighty Destroyer's move in any of your hero phases. That's really good. It's really flexible. Come turn 4, that can be massively useful. If you take the Gore Fist, it's pigs only, and they just get a move in your first hero phase. You're done. Your like value from the formation is over. It's 30 points cheaper, which surprisingly really does matter in some lists. And if your plan is to get into someone's face, impact, hit them, and fight them till they're dead, then potentially that's viable. But the ability to have extra moves for free without spending one of your command points, which are going to be like absolute gold dust late game, then I think Iron Fist is probably better. As long as you're like, I mean, if you're going to take 3 units to 6 pigs, then obviously take Gore Fist. But Iron Fist is, I think, stronger. But 160 points is quite a lot. Like you're paying quite a lot for that. So Iron Fist, War Chanter, Fungoid, and then Gordrak, and the other big boy.
And the Wardrak, he does. The War Chanter, he does the ability to give him +1 damage. Is that right?
Yeah.
And then
so
he can take a beat, can't he? Like kill a beat or something like that. And
so you get it's not something you have to roll for. You just pick something and say you've got 1 more damage. I gave mine Killer Beat, which is in the charge phase. 1 friendly unit within 12 inches on a 4+, so not that likely, can make a 3d6 charge move, and they can target something that's within 18 rather than within 12, which is cool, but hasn't come into it much, and that's because the War Chanter can't often keep up with the army.
it might help your brutes like speed up into the battle line though, if you get lucky.
Exactly. So. Yeah, it's a big deal that the rangers of this army are like a constant struggle to keep everything within. You've got Gordrak's command ability, which is incredible, where you can nominate 3 destruction units, not Ironjawz, and he's the only person in the book that's got something like that. 3 destruction units, wholly within 24 inches. You nominate at the start of the combat phase, they get +1 to hit. Now, my piggies, the riders at least, they're hitting on 2s on the charge anyway, but it buffs their mounts. So on the charge, rather than hitting on 4s, they get a charge bonus 3s, they get Gordrak 2s. It makes them more effective, but also if you're against Nurgle, or you're debuffed in any way, or someone's making you reroll 6s, you can tell I've been playing Nurgle, this stuff really, really gives you a bit more reliability. And also if you can build your list in a way where you are going to get a Triumph, I think that's incredibly powerful, because the Triumph hits wounds or armor saves. Any of those are good. You've got 2 massive dragons. You've got 6 very damagey pigs that you want to keep alive. Reroll armor saves can be really useful for that. Hits is great. Buffs to wounds, they're rare in the game anyway, so they're phenomenal. And also taking damn terrain. I mean, that's doubly good, because if you take damn terrain, due to being an Ironjawz army, you can get a d6 move at the end of any phase in which you took damage, as long as you're more than 9 inches away from your opponent. So that can really help speed your units towards your opponent.
I think it's quite a good thing that the list is almost like simple but complex. It's sort of that dichotomy of there's lots of nuances, but it simplistically is a combat army that goes and fights stuff. But actually there's so much around that makes it way more effective if you can unlock the minutiae of using all those tools and abilities, which makes, I think, playing it really appealing. I suppose that's what appeals to me when I look at the list.
Exactly the same.
Just before we go on, because we've been going on for about 20 minutes now, so I just want to basically get to the sort of wrap this section up. But I mean, you played against OBR Nagash lists.
Yeah, I did.
And was he in Petrifex, or was he into Crematorium or something else?
Crematorium with a Harvester.
Okay. What did you play? How did you get on? Just quickly. So prioritizing your combats is really important. So I made the 6 pigs as reliable as possible, and I fought with them first. And I'm trying my absolute best to pick a target I'm going to wipe out, so I can fight immediately with something else. I haven't quite managed that. I've been close, but OBR, that's tough, especially if they got a Harvester. Did you get Nagash at all? Did you take him on?
I did, yeah, and with surprising things. So like 3 Gore Grunters on the charge when he's got 10 wounds left or something like that. Protection of Nagash has been hard. Adding up impact hits against units like that really does make a difference. And also charging things on the ends when you're going to get less attacks back, or you give someone a horrible decision on whether they take stuff away, so they're going to be out of range of the Harvester, which brings their models back on a 4+, or things like that. It's been pushing first turn aggro, but I think I've been too greedy with my command points, as well as the fact that I'm now trying to write lists that get more command points. So like I've written a couple of lists with 3 Fungoid Cave Shamans in there, for example.
Have you thought about a weird knob with the artifact to give him plus 1 or 4+, give him a point as well, and that gives you the teleport spell?
Yeah. So I tried that. I took Suffocating Gravetide to try to damage my own units for the extra move, and also have the option for damaging blocking spell. I don't think that is... The army doesn't have pluses to cast particularly easily. That's a real weakness with it. So I think the teleport spell is where it's at. There's also a +1 to wound for every friendly unit within 16 inches, which is cast on 8, which is a ridiculous spell. Like in that army, if you could stand that wizard in the middle of everything in combat, that would basically make your entire army be on 2s and 2s. But 8 to cast is asking a lot.
All right. So just to sum up then, you've basically played a few games, you've evolved it, and you've ended up using the Gore Fist. Is that where you're likely ending up, or are you still trying to find the perfect storm?
No, I think Iron Fist, and then actually I'm trying to keep the drops at 5 or less. Basically, that's my restriction I've given myself. I think if you've got 6 or more, you may as well just screw it and go up to like 8 or 9 or something. So Iron Fist, and with something like 6 pigs, 3 pigs, and then 5 brutes is kind of all you've got room for, unless you're willing to drop a Fungoid Shaman or a War Chanter. And the other thing I'm going to try out is the Ard Fist, which is using Ard Boys. And
that's where my list was originally, because it gets the War Chanter in there as well, which helps with your drops.
Yeah, exactly. It's really, really nice. But then you have to pay for your pigs, so I end up at 5 drops anyway.
I didn't take pigs, so... Right, okay, cool. So I think we'll move on from this bit, but obviously you've been playing a lot, and there was a lot of information about kind of more the generics of playing with Ironjawz, so it'd be interested to see if when we get to tournaments, if you can take that somewhere and let us know how you get on. Just got to paint it now, Byron.
I've got to build it first.
Yeah, we can always sort something out. Right, okay, cool. So we'll be back in a set, and we'll do the next bit. So if you enjoyed that sort of content and that, and you know, please sort of like and subscribe to this, and to get more videos of this kind of type where we go through a lot of the nuances and talk about the detail of how to unlock the potential of your lists and armies. So if you're digging it, then subscribe for more of it.
Yeah, comment below
in the comments.
If you let me know how you would write that list, how you would play it, if there's something I've missed, if there's an amazing little trick, if you have some magical way to find more command points, please let us know below.
And Byron will shamelessly copy you. I will copy you. That's fine. Yeah, help us to help you. Okay, cool. Back in a minute. Hi guys, we're going to talk about a Kharadron Overlords match play list from the new GHB 2020 FAQ. So when we did our YouTube premiere last week, JPIC, one of our sort of guys who joined our channel and commented on our videos, asked about Kharadron Overlords, and in our last show, which we talked about the FAQs, we didn't really delve into the Kharadron Overlord FAQs or lists, because honestly we hadn't really spent time looking at it, and it's quite a change from the old book to the new. So I've went away and I thought I need to go and have a look and design a list and come up with how I would improve or take Kharadron to a match play event with the premise of trying to do as well as I could. So I should have talked through that list now and explain why I chose what I've chosen and what it does. And I'm not saying it's the best, but it's just where I got to. So I'll just put it up on the screen now. So this is the list that I'm running, and this is the effectively what I decided to take. So it's basically formed around two formations, and one is the Grundstock Escort Wing, and the other is the Iron Sky Command. And the reason I've fit everything fits into one of these two formations, and the reason I have those is for drop efficiency. So the army can be dropped in two.
Yeah.
Because people who used to play KO before, the rule was that when you set up a ship, then anything that could be embarked on that ship could be dropped as one deployment, or what they call one drop, which would allow you to choose the turn effectively. So if you had a ship in a formation with some ancillary units, you could basically deploy it all in one go. Yeah. And it was what we call a one-drop army, giving you the choice of turn one.
It's where the claim card came from and stuff, wasn't it? Where like everyone would drop onto the Ironclad and it'd go that way. So.
Yeah, your entire 2,000 points was in one boat that you dropped from the sky on turn one, which is the Barak Zilfin. So I decided to try and get my drops down as low as possible. Because it's a shooting list, I wanted to make sure I could choose the turn. So if I was playing against certain armies, I'd have the choice. And it also is protection from Alpha Strike from sort of low drop but not one drop armies. So I don't think there's an effective way to get a one drop anymore. So I went for two drop. So I looked at the skyports, and although I really want to do a Barak Mornar list, and there are some merits to that, I think Barak Zilfin is still very, very strong. So I decided to go for the skyport of Barak Zilfin, and what you get from Barak Zilfin is you can have actually one extra engine work, which I completely forgot about and I haven't included on this list. So you could actually have the second gun hauler can actually have an engine work as well. So it's not on the list there, but I'd probably give it the impact hit as well. I'll talk about that in a minute. So you get to reroll hit rolls of 1 for attacks from sky vessels. You also get to make sure you are on an automatic 6 when you run with a sky vessel. And in your hero phase, it's probably the most important one, that once per game you can move a sky vessel in the hero phase. And one of the FAQ questions that's been added is that you can use the Hitcher's rule if you use that in the hero phase. So this allows you to fly high with a boat, pull a unit of Sky Wardens or engine riggers with it, drop down in the hero phase, and then the wording on embarking, disembarking is you do it before you move or after. So effectively you can then get out and move and shoot and charge, and you can move the boat away again. So it gives you a way to multiple move in a turn with one of your ships. So it's quite strong. Like it's actually like very, very powerful if you use it correctly. So that's one of the main reasons. It's also got an enforced command trait, but you only have to take that if you take an admiral, which I haven't done because I want to use a different command trait. And then finally there's a artifact which gives you an extra shot, +1 to hit on your shooting weapon, which is irrelevant really, but you've got to take it. So the list itself then is in the Iron Sky Command is the Engine Master with Dirigible Suit as the general, and then the Navigator and the Chemist. Those 3 heroes all fit in the formation, along with the 6 engine riggers with the Skyhook, and the 10 Arcanaut Company and the Ironclad all fit into that Iron Sky Command. And what the battalion does, it allows you to be immune to battle shock if you're within 18 of the Ironclad. So it gives you battle shock protection on your army. Not that you really have many units, but it's kind of useful. Then the other formation is the Escort Wing, which is the 2 Gunstock gun haulers, the Thunderers, and the Frigate. So this is a formation which has quite a good ability, which is you can basically pick a unit and you get to reroll to hit against it. So it's quite powerful if you want to try and get more reliable shooting. So the list...
So you've got 4 boats on this list then so far.
Yes.
You've got like the Clad, the frigate, and then the 2 haulers, which are it's really interesting how that's changed from the older version where you'd only see 1 boat on the table. Now there's, these 4. I think it's going to be make it look more like a KO army, I think.
Well, I think on the table it will look quite good because you've got 2 gun haulers, a frigate, and an ironclad. So you've got like 4 ships. You've got a unit of Thunderers, a unit of Arkanauts, a unit of Engine Riggers. So that's the 3 different units, really. And then you've got 3 characters.
Yeah.
So as a aesthetic, it looks quite good. It looks almost like the army would, if you think about the kind of the background and the lore, it looks like it should look. In terms of play, so some of the choices I made. So the Engine Master of Dirigible is the general. That makes the Engine Riggers battle line. The Arcanaut Company are battle line, and because I'm in Zilfin, the frigate is battle line, so that gives me my 3 battle line choices without having to take lots of Arcanauts. And that's purely because Arcanauts have come down a lot in power, where you now can only have 1 of each weapon. I think that I wanted to use a unit of Thunderers because I quite like their rules for shooting from a boat. They're quite good. And with the engine works, so I've gone for cannons on all the boats. So I just think they're more reliable. You get 2 different shots. And although the Skyhook allows you to give you bonuses to charging, I don't really see myself charging with boats, really. It's the Ironclad I give the buoyancy aid, which allows it to fly high regardless of how many wounds or how many people are on board. So you could load the Ironclad up with the company, the Thunderers, or your characters, and take the Engine Riggers with them, with the Engine Master on the Hitcher's rule in one go. So you could move almost the entire army just from that Ironclad. So if you wanted to Alpha Strike, you can deploy your army. You're going to go first. You go right hero phase. I'm going to fly the Ironclad high, drop it down. When you hitch with it, then you effectively have to be 9 away from the enemy. But then in the movement phase, you'd be able to move that unit, so they could move, shoot, and charge. So, and then if you want to disembark, it's like getting out of a garrison, so you have to be outside of 3 and wholly within 6 of the boat. So that allows you to drop in range, so your pistols are in range, and also you can get longer range on the guns. I'm not saying that you probably want to ball your army up and drop it next to their army on turn 1 and get double turned and taken off.
No.
But it gives you an option to alpha something if you really want to. I think the main thing about this army is it actually can go second without much problems, because the gun haulers can protect the boats. They can take the damage, so you could put 1 by escort the frigate and escort the Ironclad with the gun haulers. One of the gun haulers, I've given it the collapsible compartment, so the 5 Thunderers can sit inside that as well, as a garrison. And I've also taken the magnificent omniscope on the frigate to make it faster, so it's a little bit quicker. And then the other engine work I would take on the gun hauler would be the mortal wound torpedoes that you get once per game. You've got an unbind from the navigator. The chemist can buff the engine riggers if you deploy them outside of a ship before they get hitched, so they can get their reroll to wound, reroll 1s to wound from his ability. And the navigator, I've given the Illuminator flare pistol, which is the first unit he hits with a ranged attack. You can then reroll to hit against that unit with your army. So if you've got a key target, he can basically light it up with a flare, and then your whole army can shoot it and get to reroll. So
that's really, especially if you want to, like you said, make sure that you're taking off like a key unit. You light it with that, and then make sure the cannons go into it from the frigate and the gun hauler, or even the dirigible guy, the balloon man. I can't think of their names.
The engine riggers.
That's it, engine riggers. I wanted to say engine riggers, but which is cool.
The dirigible suit general, his artifact's quite interesting. So what that does is you have to excuse me looking in the book because it's the phosphorite bomblets. So once per battle in the shooting phase, pick a unit within 6 of this model, roll a dice. On a 2+, the unit takes a mortal wound, and you can roll again and keep rolling until the target's destroyed, or you roll a 1. So
wow, that's
if you hitch
cool.
with the boat, you can then move next to 6 next to something that you want to kill. And if they don't have a mortal wounds, even if they do have a mortal wound, as long as you don't roll a 1, you could do like 12, 13 mortal wounds to something, like if you get a little bit lucky. So it's actually quite a devastating like amount of damage if you really got lucky with that. I mean, if you got really spawny, you could wipe out a big unit with that if they don't have a mortal wound save.
How many times have people done that? Like, you know, where you just keep rolling those 2+. You know, you could roll a 1 straight away, but there's those odd times where you need to clear out a unit of 10 guys and you just kill them all.
Yeah,
or you kill a hero, or you kill, you know.
And I thought that was quite fun, so I thought that's quite a fun thing to do. And he's tough as old boots. He gets +2 wounds. He's got 10 wounds or a 3-up save. So the engine riggers have got a sky hook, and that gives him +1 to charge. And it's also quite a decent shooting weapon. They've changed so much since the last time I looked at them. Like the drill cannons don't do what they did. The grapnels don't work how they did. All the rules around the boats and garrison is completely different. The fly high is completely new. It's completely redesigned. So it's a really interesting army now. And I wanted the engine riggers because of the combat, because they actually have the saws. They're quite good in combat. So although you can't stack like the Aether Chemist to give them loads of attacks, they still go into combat with 1 attack, 3s and 2s, Ren 2 damage D3. So they can shoot their rivet guns, charge into combat, and then they can basically finish something off with their melee. Being Ren 2, 3s and 2s is pretty good. So they also have an ability which allows you to heal a sky vessel. So if they're wholly within 6 of a sky vessel, before the sky vessel, that's the wrong ability. So they have a engine craft. So at the start of your hero phase, pick 1 sky vessel within 1 inch of this unit, roll a dice for each model. On a 4+, you can heal a wound. So they've got a healing ability, but they can string out and be within 1 of multiple sky vessels. And the command ability from the engine rigger, the engine master in dirigible suit, allows you to re-roll those dice. And then he's also got a healing ability as well, which is start your hero phase, pick 1 friendly sky vessel of 1 inch. It heals 3 wounds, so it's just fat free.
That's good.
So
go on. Sorry, I was going to say how bad does the when an ironclad gets damaged, like what's its output? How does it drop when it gets hurt?
Well,
essentially you could put 4. Is that going to make it band up or band down, or are they quite...
Well, effectively what happens is your fly high ability drops off because you're not allowed to. So like as soon as you take 7 wounds on a frigate, you can't fly high anymore. And if you take 10 wounds, you can't disengage, and disengage is retreat and then shoot. So move out of combat and then shoot. So it has a massive impact if your boats get damaged. So the idea of this army is to keep that fly high redeployment going, like pick stuff off on the edges and like use the cannons to long range snipe. And the idea is to play a longer game rather than try and win on turn 1.
Play the objective game.
And
redeploy
and the healing you've got from the engine master, the engine riggers, but also the fact that the boats naturally heal anyway because they've got a navigator and engine rigger on board, so they heal 1 wound anyway. And then the gun haulers, can bounce wounds, so they can like protect they're an escort vessel, so roll a dice each time you allocate a wound or mortal wound to a friendly sky vessel other than the gun hauler that is within 3, On a 6, it's negated, so it's like it's not even taken on by the gun hauler. It's just it ignores the wound, so it gives us.
Okay, that's even better.
Yeah, so it might not be make a huge difference, but if someone wants to go for your ironclad or your frigate, then it's going to be quite tough to get rid of it. And although the army doesn't,
is that an after save?
Yeah.
How would that work? It's not like you could go. It's not like, I'm going to take that 6 up and then put it in. I'm just going to get another one because of the wording of the new handbook. It's an actual.
No, well, it says roll dice when you allocate a wound. Then on a 6, it's negated,
which is
so it's after saves.
So
but
that's fine.
So you wouldn't get, and if you had like mystical, you wouldn't get that as well. But effectively,
I was trying to see if there's a way around it, but
but to be honest, like it's got 4 cannons in it. It's got some shooting. It's got a little bit of combat. It's got some mortal wound output. The navigator, he's got an unbind. You've got a buff from the chemist. It's a bit of an all-rounder. It's a little bit light on bodies, but it does have it's the battle line units. You've got the engine riggers and the frigates, so they're quite good for and the company. So if you're playing like Scorched Earth, then you could actually be aggressive with the frigate and the engine riggers to try and take objectives. Behemoth wise, it's obviously got the frigate and the ironclad, so those two can help in missions where you need behemoths. You've got 3 characters. One of them's quite tough and he's quite fast with a movement 12 with the suit. So it's a bit of everything. I think it's quite a nice mixed army. And like the gun haulers, you can do this thing where they once per game they could do a start movement phase. You can go all ahead full, and you just add 6 to its move, so that's movement 18 without running. So if you wanted to like fly across the table, and then you can put 5 thunderers in it if you've got the buoyancy aid, and they can just shoot out of it because it's a garrison. So they're basically shooting from the top from that, and because you don't have to worry about being 9 away, or if you do the fly high, you have to be 9 away. But because of the Zilfin, you can do that ability in your hero phase and get out in your movement phase, and the unit could free to move, so you can move closer. Not that you really have many infantry. Like ideally, I'd like 10 thunderers. But I can't fit it in. You could drop the engine master with suit down to a chemist or another hero. In fact, you need an engine master, so you'd have to drop it down to an engine master and then drop the navigator down to a chemist, and then you could effectively change the list and have 10 thunderers. But it's kind of, there isn't really a lot of play in the list because you're taking 2 formations. Now the problem is, as soon as you take 1 formation, your army becomes more than 2 drops,
and then you get out for it, can't you? I suppose, unless you.
Yeah, I mean,
I quite like it though.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a big deal if you don't get the choice of turn, because I think if they give you first turn, you've got ways to hurt them, and if they go first, then you could double them. So I think you could probably get away with it without having to do it. I think
what's the big first 1 drops out there, like Change Host, the Lumineth list that we discussed.
Yeah,
I can't think of many big 1 drops that. And if, like, Change Host is a bad matchup for that anyway, right? So if you play Change Host, you're going to struggle.
I don't think it is. Like against... No, because you've got longer range guns, so you can shoot all the flamers off, and then it doesn't really... The fact they bog you down with horrors doesn't really matter, because you just shoot... You can just redeploy behind them and around the sides and shoot. So it's not... I don't think it's that bad. I'd have to play it, but I think the effective range of your stuff is so long, then, like the cannons are 24, you can move, like 12, 16 inches, shoot 24, you can, it's not, I don't think it really suffers too much from armies that like that, because you're not trying to slog across the table.
No.
I think it's so maneuverable that you can almost you deploy very far back and very conservatively without any impact, because you can just fly high and drop.
That's the thing that got me excited when you were talking about it. It was just like how maneuverable it's going to be for those for the missions. One of the problems with like Kharadron before is that it would drop, it would shoot. If you get doubled, you lose. If you double, you win. Whereas now, and then you just be stuck at a block on that side of the table. Whereas now you've got the opportunity to be able to redeploy, which is something I think it really lacked in. Whereas now, like, you know, and also like, you know, I can't remember I've ever seen a frigate on the table at a tournament. I've never seen one, or a gun hauler. You know, so
I did. One of the things as well is worth mentioning is the A for gold, and the way the A for gold works. So all the boats and the characters, and I think the Arcanaut company would start with 1 share of A for gold, and the way it works is like a triumph. So you can burn it for a triumph. So it kind of gives you a way to reroll saves on your boats. And in the new book, because a frigate used to have a 5-up save, it's now got a 4-up save. Ironclad had a 4, it's now got a 3-up save. So the armor saves are better, and you can re-roll them. Plus the army is 1980, so you probably get a triumph anyway. One of the things I did look at was giving the A for chemist the spell in a bottle.
That's what I was going to ask, the spell in the bottle.
Yeah, I just couldn't find an end of spell that fit into the army. I mean,
it's Comet or Demon Rift, I think, is the ones that I'd go for, but it's just
to have the points.
Finding the points for them.
Yeah, you'd have to drop a formation. As soon as you drop a formation, you lose an engine work, you lose an artifact, you become a higher drop army. There is a formation as well, which is the attack squadron, which is frigates and Arcanauts. Now that was the original list I wrote, was the Iron Sky Command and the attack squadron, and it was frigates and an ironclad and units, and it had, but I struggled to. It was okay. It had a lot more models in it. Like it had 30 Arcanauts, a unit of 6 engine riggers, so it had 36 infantry in it. So you might find that playing with this, it struggles in missions where you need to capture objectives. The only thing I can think of with KO, when the men are in the boats, they don't count towards objectives anyway, like in terms of like the numbers. So I think that you kind of need to. I think you just have to accept that the army plays like it doesn't have a lot of models in it, and then you just use the Arcanauts, dump them on an objective, and then they just sit there and hold it, basically. But the problem is the infantry. There are other ways to go with it. I'm not sure it's going to be like the most effective thing, but I think it would be a lot of fun to play with, and I think it'd take a long time to master it. But I think if you got good with it and you really understood it, I think you could beat a lot of stuff out there, because it does play so differently to anything out there. So I would be interested in getting this on the table and having a go with it. So it's interesting army.
Yeah, it does seem really cool. I think it'd be very, very interesting to play with. Like you said, the movement shenanigans in it really appeals to me. Like you, I'd be concerned about the amount of bodies, but I think that is going to hinder you in some missions. In other missions, it won't matter so much. And also, you maybe swapping out and putting those 30 in, you might lose some of its effectiveness at the moment. It feels like it's quite sort of like pointy. It's quite sort of like at that top end of like how it's going to perform and how it's going to play. I think if you sort of add those bodies in, then it becomes less of a scalpel and more of a hammer, I suppose. Maybe not hammer, that's the wrong terminology, but it's very specialised at the moment, and putting those 30 in will make it less specialised.
Yeah, I think the for me as well, the aesthetic of the army, like painting that as a force, appeals to me a lot more than the other list. It basically lends itself to quite a nice looking tabletop army, and I think for me that's an appeal just from a list point of view, and being effective but also being looking cool, because having one of basically 2 of the little ships, a big ship and a medium ship, one of pretty much every unit, it would look amazing on the table. I think it would just look like such a nice army. It would look it's almost narrative, but it is got an edge to it. So I think I might paint this up. I've got most of this anyway, so all I've really got to do is finish painting and build one gun hauler, and then I've got all of that. So I think for me, cool. I could do with getting that on the table and giving it a go, because I've got like the frigate and the ironclad and a gun hauler already built. I just have to do one more gun hauler. I need to get the engine master and dirigible suit, and then then just get it.
Because that's the character, isn't it? The new one.
Yeah, he came in the A for War, whatever it was, the box set with the interior.
Yeah, Sky.
But yeah, that's essentially it. So let me know what you think below. If you think it's good, if you'd rather run the other formation. If you've played a lot of games with Kharadron, I'd be interested in hearing from you as well. If you think that the drops isn't really important, going second, not having the choice first or second. If you look at that and think you need more bodies on the table, let me know. Let me know what you think. I'll be really interested to hear what you have to say. If you want to get more content like this, then just hit that subscribe or that like. If you like this list, hit the like. Tell me you like it. And hopefully that's going to inspire someone to get a KO army on the table. So I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say.
Awesome.
So I think that about wraps up this show. So thanks for listening. Engage with us on social media. Let us know if you've got any comments or questions. And we look forward to hearing from you. And join us again next time for more Warhammer content.
Yeah. Cheers, guys.